Hey guys, I hope you're well and welcome to today's market update. Today we're doing a recording. It's my first day back at the Trade Captain and Amana Capital offices here in London. I'm going to wait for a few days and enjoying the sun in Southern Europe. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at the markets, provide you guys with a quick update on what's going on. Don't forget to like the video and don't forget as well to retweet the notification via the Trade Captain handle and my own handle at AlexFX00. As well, before we start, I need to stress that trading financial markets unfortunately is risky, and as you've probably seen in these little statements across the internet, especially if you go to a broker, about 80% of traders lose money. Hopefully, of course, I'm going to try to guide you in the right direction and help you a bit with your own trading. And we're going to begin with the euro versus the USD, and the euro dollar is pretty much trading where it was trading yesterday. It's still guided by this very strong bullish uptrend that started last week on Wednesday on August 15th, pushing to the upside, and the market could potentially trade above 116.31, which is the high here from August 8th, and that could potentially lift the market a little bit higher, maybe to 117, 117.49. But I don't really think so that's what could potentially happen, right? But I wouldn't necessarily buy here myself. Why? Because the potential reward right now is quite weak. We could potentially make, 100 pip. Maybe we'll put a stop loss here, so we risk about 97 pips. So it's pretty much relatively balanced. And it's not even likely necessarily that we are going to trade much higher because of all these highs. Remember, here people sold in July 9th, July 17th, July 23rd, and here again on July 30th. And then they sold here in June as well. So I think it's quite likely that this market will, once again sort of try to roll over here. And my preference is to wait for this short-term trend to align itself with the big picture downtrend. A little bit like the Aussie dollar, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So this is the euro, and again, short-term levels, watch 1487. I think if the market trades below this level, you could potentially have move to the downside, then probably up, and then probably lower. A good example of this happening in the Aussie dollar is today, actually. You can see here, this is a daily chart. Daily chart overall is bearish. And as you might know, the sitting Prime Minister in Australia, Mr. Turnbull, might potentially be ousted and replaced by a new Prime Minister. This is fairly typical in Australia, that you don't have a Prime Minister that sits the whole mandate period. So it's nothing necessarily new, but the market is a bit worried and sold off quite strongly. You can see how the market's down with 0.76%, whereas the dollar is barely making barely making a dent to the euro and the pound and to the dollar yen or New Zealand dollar or CAD. But here you have a big sort of reversal. And again, I'm not really sure about the macro fundamental implications of getting a new Prime Minister, and we'll see what happens. But if the market goes up to 73.21, I do suspect traders are going to try to sell, and I think that we'll be happy to sell as long as trade below 73.83. But the actual level I'm looking at is 74. So I suspect probably up and then down and then up and then potentially lower again. So this is exactly what I'm looking for. And this is exactly what I do suspect is going to happen with the euro in the next few days. I'm not sure though if it will happen, and I'm not really ready to pre-commit. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is unfortunately did not really play out at all. We had this head and shoulders, head, left, right shoulder, had the break to the upside. There was nothing wrong with buying here, went to the upside, and then if it was a genuine sort of push to the upside, it would have maybe tested, but it should not have traded below the breakout candle that you can see on the 4-hour, and definitely not below this level here, which was not necessarily yesterday's low, but almost. And we're pretty much back into the range here. And if one went long on that setup, there's not too much we can do about it. Better just to take a step back and say, okay, that did not work out, and take that loss. Now going forward here, what's going to happen? Well, let's ignore the short-term levels for a bit and just focus on the big levels. Well, the market has found some stabilization above 5,756, and I do suspect if we trade above 66.39 that we could potentially head up and potentially slightly higher again. But I wouldn't necessarily be betting strongly on this. Why? Well, if you check out yesterday's video, as I mentioned, all the other crypto coins are in a strong downtrend, and I think we could potentially see a little bit of bounce in them. Not that I'm trading them or seeing any sort of interesting pattern right now to trade them, but if we have the little push, okay, those markets will correct a bit. Maybe Bitcoin hits a little bit higher, but I think it's still going to be capped by this level up here. So I think most likely next few months, probably more consolidation, and if we don't take out this high, eventually the market will try to test the lower support levels here, and this is some sort of a rectangle pattern with this being a potential target here, potentially suggesting, actually let me undo, no, it is correct actually. So about it's a bit silly though almost, because that would literally take us down to 1,500, which I don't think is likely. If we just focus on the percentage change, this will be a 42% decline. So let's figure out how much that is. 42%. So what I'm doing here is I'm not focusing on the actual dollar amount, which is usually what we do. I'm just focusing on the percentage decline. So the difference between high and low, that gives you the target, 42% decline, and here would be what we would be targeting here. This is a 42% decline, 42.68, which lines up nicely with this low down here. The actual low is this low here from September 13th of last year. So this makes sense. I can tell you most likely take out the low and we'll head to the downside. The question is if we're going to head all the way down here. We had a similar setup in Bitcoin and Ripple that I mentioned here that worked out very, very well. In regards to gold, it's actually interesting. Silver on the big pressure today, and gold unfortunately traded above my trend finding level. That would be stopping me out, and I had to acknowledge potentially that short-term push to the upside. Now, I'm not a guy that's going to start to trade against the daily trend. I don't do that. But if you're trading in the very short term, then you do have a market with slightly bullish bias above 1,184. However, take out this level, which is my preferred view or preferred trading, and then I suspect we'll potentially do something like this, right? It will be just a little stop. It will be up, trade a little bit sideways, and then down. Pretty much the same thing here. Doesn't have to strongly tumble. This is like an extremely good setup. No, but we'll definitely be trading with the trend, which is really important. And I suspect we could potentially go to the downside like this. Until that happens, though, like the euro, it's a bit supported and could continue to head to the upside. Here's crude oil, and not something I'm a super big fan of. I think this market is going to continue to be more and more choppy, more difficult to deal with. The trend is bullish about 63, 61. If you look at it from a big picture perspective, and what's happening here is that you have this short-term downtrend, which has been in place since July, and is meeting up with this multi-month, multi-year bullish trend. And usually it's the short-term trend that sort of gives way. So if we take out the high here, probably going to go up, then probably down, and then potentially up again. However, as long as you trade below 68.37, I suspect this market could drift down maybe to 66.50, 66, and then we'll see what happens. I don't really think or think that this makes too much sense right now. It's a little bit like trading the dollar yen or dollar CAD. It's a bit choppy. I want to see things narrow further, and then we'll work with a nice breakout. Here is the German DAX, took out support, moved to the next support level, which was fair. And if we trade below the June low, we'll potentially decline to this level down here, which is from March this year. So this could potentially be interesting. Until that happens, you know, we probably trade sideways between the June low and this high here, which is from July. So this will be the July high. You have, of course, short-term levels like the July 20 low. Take that out and probably push a little bit higher, but it's more likely that it's going to continue to be choppy for longer. And then in the first, maybe the second week of September, as at least in England, a lot of most schools open again, traders go back to work, and by middle September everybody should be back at school, and you'll have more activity in the markets. And as well in Europe, it's the final week of August, which is usually the month where Europe shuts down, so then maybe after that we'll have some decent breakouts. Okay guys, that concludes today's market update. Tomorrow you'll be able to join me in the live trading room at 9 AM London time for the morning update. Nathan as well, he's going to be off for a few days, so it's going to be slightly quieter, just going to be me and Harris and Yuri posting, but starting from August 28th, the full team is going to be back, and you're going to see more and more activity here at tradecaptain.com. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to retweet or follow us on our Twitter handle, which is TradeCPT. You can also follow us on Facebook, and strongly suggest that you follow us on YouTube as well. On YouTube, you have access, you can literally just subscribe to our videos. Yesterday I did a presentation, this one here. You get a notification if you subscribe and press here to that. You're subscribing, you get the little bell button, and then you in essence get a video. And here's the Trade Captain home, Facebook, where you can follow us as well. If you have any questions, let me know, and have a good trading day.